I wasn't looking for anything, just the gas bill. We have this shared tablet we keep on the kitchen counter. It's mostly for stuff like paying utilities, pulling up recipes, or watching old sitcom reruns while cooking. Nothing serious. Nothing private. Or at least I thought so. That night, it was already on when I walked in from work. The screen was still glowing softly under the kitchen light, like it had been used recently. I figured she'd been browsing or maybe texting her sister again. She always says her group chats drain the battery faster than anything else. I reached over, ready to pull up the bill site like I always do. But the second my finger tapped the screen, something opened. Not Chrome. Not the power company's site. Messages. A messaging app. The kind she usually keeps locked behind Face ID. It opened like it wanted me to see it. And there it was. A single message. No long thread. Just one bubble, one line. Sitting there like a ticking time bomb someone had forgotten to bury. Last night was magical. Is the mark still on your neck? Face blowing a kiss, D. 8 seconds. That's how long I stared at it without moving. Maybe less. But those seconds stretched out like hours. My eyes kept bouncing between the sentence and the stupid little heart emoji next to her name at the top of the chat. I remember thinking, bizarrely, why would she use a heart for this person? Then came the other thoughts. The ones that you can't unthink once they start. Who the hell is D? Why is he talking about last night? What kind of mark? And why would she still have it? My fingers started trembling before my brain even caught up. I wasn't angry yet. Not even sad. Just cold. Like someone had turned down the thermostat in my chest. I didn't hear her come in. Just the soft sound of her bare feet on the tile behind me. "What are you doing?" she asked. She didn't sound surprised. Just annoyed. Like I'd left the fridge open or spilled coffee on her favorite sweater. I turned, still holding the tablet. I didn't even say anything. Just turned the screen toward her. Her eyes flicked down, saw the message, and I will swear on everything I have left in this world. Her reaction wasn't guilt. It was irritation. She let out this tiny breath through her nose, like a teacher catching a kid cheating on a quiz and not wanting to deal with the paperwork. "Oh my God," she muttered. "Seriously?" I said nothing. She crossed her arms, already defensive. "That's from Derek. From my old team. I've told you about him before. He's always like that. He flirts with everyone. It's just how he is." She said it fast, like she'd rehearsed it. I still didn't speak. She sighed and reached for a glass from the cabinet. Didn't look at me again. Just filled it with water like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just thrown a grenade into the middle of our kitchen. "You're being paranoid again," she added casually. "You always do this. Look for stuff that isn't there." I couldn't even form words. My throat was too tight. My jaw was locked like I'd just been punched. I set the tablet down slowly, carefully, like I might break something if I moved too fast. She didn't care. She took a sip, then walked past me, muttering as she left the room. "You're exhausting sometimes. You know that?" Exhausting. That word stuck with me long after she was gone. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't explained. She hadn't even tried. In her mind, the issue wasn't the message or the man who sent it, or the fact that it had been left open for me to see. The issue was me, that I had dared to react, that I had dared to feel something. I stood in the kitchen long after she'd gone upstairs, staring at the empty glass on the counter. She always used to joke that I was the calm one, the grounded one. "Nothing rattles you," she'd say, smiling across the couch with a glass of wine in her hand. "It's annoying how steady you are." Back then, it was a compliment. Now it felt like a setup. Like she'd counted on me to be the guy who didn't raise his voice. The guy who didn't look too closely. The guy who didn't ask questions when things stopped adding up. But I saw it now. I saw how quickly she twisted it all around. How she managed to make me feel like the one at fault for seeing something that was right in front of my face. Like I had violated her trust by stumbling onto a sentence that couldn't be unseen. I picked up the tablet again. Scrolled up. There was no thread. No messages before it. Nothing after. Just that one sentence, floating there like a loaded G*N left on a kitchen table. Last night was magical. Is the mark still on your neck? Face blowing a kiss, D. She hadn't replied. Or maybe she had and then deleted it. The app let you do that now, clean things up. Erase parts of a conversation and leave the rest. I wouldn't know. I'd never had a reason to use it. Until now. I closed the screen, locked the tablet, and set it back exactly where I'd found it. I didn't confront her. I didn't storm upstairs. I didn't call Derek or scream into a pillow or break a glass against the wall. That's not who I am. Instead, I sat down at the table where we'd shared hundreds of meals, birthdays, and late-night takeout. I stared at the spot where she used to sit, always curled up sideways with her legs under her. And I thought, this is how it happens. Not with a fight. Not with a scandal. Not with yelling and crying and doors slamming. Sometimes it starts with one sentence. One sentence you weren't supposed to see. One truth that was never meant for you. And once you see it, there's no going back. You can pretend for a while. You can tell yourself it's nothing. That it's innocent. That you're being dramatic. But somewhere deep inside, you already know. You've already crossed into the before and after. And you're not in the before anymore. After the message, nothing looked the same. Not the kitchen, not her, not even my own memory. It's strange how fast something you trusted turns unfamiliar. That one line, just a few words and a winking emoji, had pulled a thread I didn't know existed. And now everything was coming loose. I tried to act normal. I really did. I still made the coffee in the morning. Still asked how her meetings went. Still sat beside her on the couch while she scrolled through her phone, laughing at reels I couldn't hear and didn't want to. But underneath it, I was unraveling. Every moment we shared after that message felt like a test. A reenactment of a life we no longer had, with actors who had memorized the lines but no longer believed the story. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. That's when it started. The mental inventory. You know how you look back and suddenly everything makes sense? Even though it made no sense at the time? That was me. I started seeing things. Or maybe I'd been seeing them all along. I just wasn't willing to believe what they meant. Like her phone. She used to leave it charging on the nightstand, screen up, no password. Open as a book. I never checked it. Not because I was being noble, but because I trusted her. I genuinely had nothing to fear. But somewhere along the line, it became a secret she carried in her pocket. A screen that never lit up around me. If a message came in, it stayed quiet. No vibration. No banner. Just a face-down phone and a soft, practiced glance every so often. Like she was making sure the door to her other life stayed locked. And the bathroom. She used to walk in, phone in hand, leave it on the counter, door cracked. Now it shut behind her like a vault. Sometimes she'd stay in there for 20 minutes. No shower running. Just silence. Then maybe a flush, a cough, the sink for show, and she'd come out with that sorry, long day. Looked like it was all perfectly normal. It wasn't normal. Not anymore. Then there were the Friday briefings. That one really hit me. She worked in consulting, fast-paced, client-heavy, but for years, Fridays were light. She'd be home by 3:30, sometimes earlier, kicking off her shoes and pouring a glass of wine before I even logged out of my last Zoom call. But now it was client briefings every Friday. Always around 4 o'clock. Always ending late. Sometimes she came home smiling. Sometimes drained. Once, she came home in a dress I didn't recognize. And then the canceled trip. That was our thing, anniversary weekends. Nothing crazy. Just a bed and breakfast, sometimes the coast. We'd unplug, sleep in, talk like we used to. This year, she bailed. Said she had a last-minute presentation that couldn't wait. Swore up and down it was make or break for a client. I believed her. I even bought takeout and waited up with a stupid little candle burning on the table. She didn't come home until midnight. Said it ran late. The next morning, while scrolling social, I saw a picture in her story. A wine glass, rooftop, downtown skyline behind it. She had captioned it, "Finally exhaled clinking glasses." No one else in the frame, but you could see the reflection of someone in the glass. Just a blur, a silhouette. I asked her about it. She said she'd taken a moment alone after her meeting. Needed air. she claimed. It didn't fit. None of it did. Then came the perfume. I noticed it one evening when she walked in the door. Late again. Not the usual scent. Something new. Richer. Deeper. Floral, maybe. I'm not good at naming things like that. But it wasn't hers. Not the one I'd bought her last Christmas. Not the one she used for years that I had come to associate with her presence in every room. I asked. She shrugged. Said she picked it up on sale. For myself, she added, like that explained everything. But the thing is, she never wore it around me. Not once. I only smelled it when she came home from somewhere else. Then there was the lingerie. I found the receipt by accident. She'd left it folded in a coat pocket, which was rare. She's usually meticulous about clearing receipts. It was from a boutique. Not the kind of place she buys everyday bras and underwear. This was high-end. Delicate. The kind of lace you don't wear for yourself, no matter what she claimed. I never saw it. Not once. Not in the laundry. Not in the bedroom. Not on her. It existed somewhere else. In another space I wasn't allowed into. Piece by piece, it all started fitting together. Like puzzle pieces that had been scattered for months, but now they made a picture. And that picture was ugly. Unmistakable. Brutally clear. I started to notice how she didn't touch me anymore. Not in the casual ways. Not in the soft reaches for my hand while watching a movie. Not the arm around my back when we walked across a parking lot. No more fingertips on my shoulder when passing behind me in the kitchen. Touch had become functional. A kiss hello that didn't quite land. A hug that felt rehearsed. S*X that felt distant when it happened at all. Mechanical and short, like checking off a box. It wasn't just what she did. It was what she didn't do. And it was everywhere now. The way she looked at her phone and smiled. Not a big grin, but the kind of smile people make when reading something meant only for them. The way she started keeping her nails done all the time. Not just for work. Not just for herself. But meticulously done. Like she wanted her hands to be remembered. And her music changed. She used to hate soft indie stuff. Called it toothless breakup junk. Now it played in the car. In the kitchen. Lyrics about secrets and starting over and the thrill of being wanted. She hummed them while chopping vegetables. One night, I asked her, "You like this now?" She looked at me like I was interrupting. Yeah, tastes change. People change. People change. I couldn't unhear that. The thing is, I don't think I missed the signs. I think I saw them all. I just refused to believe they meant anything. I built this version of us in my head that couldn't crack. Couldn't break. But I was wrong. And once I let myself admit that, really admit it, it was like the lights came on. There wasn't a single moment. There wasn't a grand confession or a screaming match or a dramatic hotel receipt dropped on the table. Just silence. Patterns. Shifts. And one sentence that couldn't be unseen. That was enough. I sat on the edge of the bed that night watching her sleep. Her face was turned toward the wall. Her breathing even. Peaceful. Like someone who had made their choices and buried them deep enough to sleep well. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That would come later. In that moment, all I felt was a strange kind of calm. Like the end had already started, and I was just the last one to realize it. But now I knew, and the knowing changed everything. It was a Thursday when I stopped pretending. I remember because it was trash day. I took the bins out early, like always. The sky was still that washed-out gray before sunrise, and the cold hit harder than I expected. I stood at the curb with my hands in my pockets, just staring down the street for a while. No cars, no neighbors, just the hum of silence. And that's when I knew I wasn't going to keep guessing anymore. For weeks I'd been collecting pieces, little signs, suspicious moments, things that didn't fit. My brain had turned into a full-time analyst, constantly replaying the same scenes with new interpretations. I needed to stop asking questions that had already been answered. I needed proof. Real, undeniable, unforgiving proof. That evening, she told me she had a client dinner. Her tone was casual, too casual. She mentioned it while tossing together a salad, like she was talking about dry cleaning or someone's birthday at work. Dinner might run a little late, she added. not looking up from the cutting board. With who? Just the client team. Derek's heading it. She said his name like it was any other guy. Like it didn't mean anything. I nodded. Didn't ask follow-ups. Didn't make a face. I just went upstairs and told her I was going to read. She left around 6:40 p.m. wearing the black dress. Not the one she wears to meetings or holiday parties. This one was tighter, lower in the back. Something she hadn't worn in over a year, maybe longer. Her makeup was heavier than usual too. Subtle but sharp. Like she was dressing to be noticed by someone who already knew her well. She kissed my cheek on the way out, quick and distracted. "Don't wait up," she said. I didn't plan to. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, I moved. I grabbed my keys, jacket, and the folded note I'd written myself earlier in the day with one word on it. Hotel. There's a place near downtown. A small boutique hotel tucked between two office buildings. It doesn't advertise. No flashy signs. But I knew from a conversation I'd overheard once at her company's holiday party that people from her firm used it all the time. Discreet was the word someone used. I tucked that detail away, not knowing why it stuck with me. Now I did. I parked across the street, engine off, lights down. The kind of parking job someone does when they're not just parking. The lot was quiet, but the lobby was lit. Through the glass doors I could see guests moving in and out. A couple checking in. A woman pulling a suitcase. A guy on his phone by the fireplace. I sat in the car, trying not to think. Just watch. Felt ridiculous. Like something out of a bad detective movie. I told myself I could still go home. That none of this would prove anything. That maybe she really was at dinner. Maybe I'd misread everything. And then at 10:10 p.m. she walked out the front doors. She wasn't alone. Derek was with her. The same guy from the corporate photo on her company's website. The guy whose name kept popping up like a breadcrumb I didn't want to follow. Tall. Confident. The kind of face people trust too easily. They didn't see me. I was across the lot, headlights off. But I saw everything. She laughed as they stepped outside. Real laughter. Not polite. The kind that bubbles up when you're comfortable. Int asterisk mate. He held her hand. Not in a polite escorting way. Not friendly. This wasn't a goodbye handshake. It was familiar. Intertwined. Like they'd done it 100 times before. She reached up and adjusted his scarf. Then he kissed her. Not quick. Not awkward. Slow. Certain. Familiar. Her hands rested on his chest as if they belonged there. And in that moment the world went quiet. Everything inside me just stopped. There was no more guessing. No more maybe. No more mental gymnastics. This was it. Confirmation. The thing I didn't want but needed. The thing I had come for. I didn't move. Didn't cry. Didn't pound the steering wheel like in the movies. I just watched. Like I was watching someone else's life implode. They stood there for a few more seconds, talking close. She touched his arm. He leaned in again. Another kiss, this time near her ear. Then they walked down the block together toward a waiting car. I didn't follow. I already had what I came for. I sat there for a long time after that, just staring at the hotel entrance, watching as the night moved on without them. At some point, I started the engine and drove. I didn't go home right away. I needed space. I needed distance from the version of myself that didn't know. The one that still believed her. I ended up at a 24-hour diner on the edge of town. The kind with cracked leather booths and a jukebox that hasn't worked in 10 years. I ordered coffee I didn't drink and stared at the table for a full hour. It wasn't the betrayal that hit me hardest. It was the clarity. There's something cruel about confirmation. Takes away hope. Takes away doubt. It leaves you standing in front of a truth you can't reason with. She wasn't just distracted. She wasn't just tired from work. She wasn't trying to reconnect, or lost, or caught in some emotional confusion. She was with him. She had chosen someone else. While I was planning dinner, she was picking a dress. While I was clearing the dishwasher, she was reaching for his hand. While I was waiting for her to come home, she was adjusting his scarf before he kissed her. It was like being erased in real time. I paid the bill even though I barely touched anything. The waitress gave me a weird look, like she wanted to ask if I was okay. I gave her a polite smile and walked out. Back home, the house was dark. I didn't turn on the lights, just walked through the rooms slowly, touching the edges of a life that suddenly felt borrowed. The pictures on the wall, the jacket she always left on the back of the chair, the grocery list on the fridge, still in her handwriting. It all looked like evidence now, evidence of a shared life she'd already left behind. Upstairs, the bed was made, the sheets untouched. I lay down on my side, fully clothed, eyes open to the ceiling, and I thought about the kiss. Not the physical part, the comfort in it, the rhythm, the way her shoulders relaxed when he leaned in. Like that was where she felt safe now. Not here. Not with me. I didn't cry. Not because I was strong, but because something had closed off. Like a fuse had blown and I didn't have the wiring to process it all yet. I just lay there, listening to the silence, waiting for something to break inside me. The morning after I saw them, I didn't say a word. Not to her. Not to anyone. She came home late, like she always did after these client dinners. I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. She didn't even check if I was awake. Just slipped off her shoes, tiptoed into the bathroom, and moved through the room like a shadow. Her perfume lingered longer than she did. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. We moved around each other the next day like furniture. Present, quiet, part of the background. She made coffee. I read the news. She asked if I needed anything from the store. I said no. She looked at me a second longer than usual, maybe sensing something had shifted. But she didn't ask. She didn't want to know. And I didn't offer it. The thing is, when you finally see someone clearly, you realize how long you've been squinting. That whole day felt like walking through a museum of our marriage. Everywhere I turned, I saw versions of us that no longer existed. The framed photo from a weekend in the mountains, her note tucked into my sock drawer from our first anniversary, the grocery list with a heart next to eggs, artifacts from a life that was already over. That night, we were supposed to attend a birthday party for one of her friends. A club downtown. Not really my scene, but I agreed to go weeks ago, back when I was still pretending. I offered to drive. She looked surprised, almost pleased. The place was loud, crowded, bodies pressed together under dim purple lights. Everyone was dressed like they had something to prove. Laughter echoed off the walls, clinking glasses, music pulsing like a second heartbeat. She wore a red dress I hadn't seen before, fit too well to be new. She wasn't trying to impress me. That much was obvious. I spent most of the night by the bar, sipping soda water, watching her glide through the room like she belonged in a different life. People loved her. They always did. She knew how to laugh at the right volume, how to compliment without sounding fake, how to touch someone's arm just enough to make them feel important. I used to admire that. Now I wondered how much of it was performance. At some point, she made her way back to me with a group trailing behind. Someone said something funny, probably Derek, though I didn't turn to confirm, and she laughed, tipping her glass back with ease. Then it happened. She turned toward me, smirked, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "What if I just moved in with someone else?" Just like that, like it was a joke. The group laughed. Someone clapped. Another person raised a glass and said something I didn't catch. But me, I just stood there. I didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't make a sound. Her smile faded half a beat too late. Maybe she saw something in my eyes. Maybe not. It didn't matter. I set my glass down, turned, and walked out. No words, no scene, just silence. 22 years, gone in a single sentence tossed out for a cheap laugh. I could feel her eyes on my back as I left. But she didn't follow. She didn't call out. She let me go. The cool air outside felt like a slap. I walked down the block, past people standing in line for clubs, past food trucks and honking cars, past two kids making out under a flickering streetlight. Everything was still moving. The world hadn't stopped, even though mine had just collapsed. I didn't drive straight home. I pulled into a 24-hour gas station, parked under the buzzing light, and just sat there. I thought about the joke, the way she said it, the ease in her voice. The way she tossed it out like she was just playing around, testing the water, seeing how it would land, and the way people laughed, like it was harmless, like it wasn't the final cut. That's what hurt the most. Not the affair, not the hotel, not even the kiss. It was the way she joked about leaving me while I stood 3 feet away, like I didn't exist, like I was already gone. I thought about the version of me that would have stayed, that would have brushed it off, laughed along, pretended it was nothing. But that version was dead now. She led him with that sentence. So I drove home, each turn familiar, each light another decision I didn't have to make anymore. When I walked into the house, it felt different. Not emptier, just honest. The illusion was gone. The fog had lifted, and what was left was clear. She didn't love me. Maybe she hadn't for a long time. Maybe she never really did. I took off my shoes, locked the door, and stood in the middle of the living room staring at the photo of us on the mantel. She looked happy in it. So did I. But I didn't recognize either of us. And I didn't cry, not because I wasn't sad, but because this wasn't grief. It was release. That night, I slept in the guest room with the door locked. Not out of fear, but because I didn't want her to come in. I didn't want her to explain, or apologize, or say it was just a joke. I didn't want her words anymore. They didn't mean anything. The next morning, she came down in sweats, hair tied back, pretending nothing had happened. Asked if I wanted eggs. I said no. She stared at me a moment longer than usual. Then she shrugged and made her breakfast. I sat there watching her move around the kitchen like we were still us. But we weren't. She just didn't know it yet. I didn't yell. That surprised me. I always imagined if it ever came to something like this, if she ever hurt me this badly, I'd raise hell. Throw plates, punch walls, scream until my throat gave out. But when the moment came, I felt nothing. Not rage, not sorrow, just cold clarity. The day after the party, I woke up before her. Sat in the living room for over an hour, staring at the morning light hitting the hardwood floor. I remember thinking how quiet the house was. Not peaceful, just quiet in that way that feels wrong, like something had been removed. And then I stood up and started making changes. No ceremony, no warning, just action. First thing, I opened the laptop and logged into our bank accounts. I moved half the balance into a separate checking account under my name, something I'd set up months ago but never touched. She didn't know it existed. Now she would. Then I froze the joint credit cards. Not canceled. Not yet. Just paused. The kind of pause that says, I'm not paying for your dinners with him. Next, I went to the auto payments, utilities, subscriptions, everything linked to my name. I unlinked her devices, her email, her access. I changed the Amazon password, the Netflix account, Spotify, all of it. And then the lease. Her name was never on it. That was always a point of friction. Something she insisted we'd fix eventually. Now I was grateful it had never happened. A few clicks later, I had submitted the request to remove her as an authorized occupant. The key step came last. The locks. I called a local locksmith and scheduled a rekeying for Monday morning. It was Thursday. That gave me 3 days to set everything in motion. 3 days to say nothing, to keep the mask on. When she finally came downstairs, still in pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes, I was already dressed. Calm. Collected. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep. She nodded like that made sense. Like she wasn't the reason my nights had turned to ash. Later that day, while she showered, I began packing her things. Not everything. Not yet. Just the essentials. I took 2 suitcases from the closet, the same ones we'd used on our last trip together, and started filling them with clothes, toiletries, chargers, the items she used most. I set them near the door of the guest room. Then I waited. The next morning, she left for work like nothing had changed, like we were still pretending. I spent the day boxing the rest of her belongings. Sweaters, photos, her old college keepsakes, shoes I never saw her wear but she refused to part with, the journals she kept under the bed, the ones I never read, even when I suspected. I packed it all carefully, not to be kind, but because I wanted it done right. Clean. Final. When I finished, I stacked the boxes by the front door. Labeled. Neat. Complete. That night she came home late. I didn't ask where she'd been. She didn't offer. We passed each other in the hallway like ghosts. She didn't even glance at the suitcases. Saturday morning came. I made coffee. She made toast. No words passed between us. The air was thick with everything we didn't say. That afternoon, I left the house for a few hours. Not to run errands. Just to breathe. To be in a space that didn't carry the weight of her betrayal. When I came back, her car wasn't in the driveway. I locked the door behind me, and I waited. She came home that evening, tried her key. It didn't work. Not a twist. Not a rattle. Just the soft thunk of rejection. I watched her through the peephole as she paused. Confused. Tried again. Looked at the key like maybe it had bent. Then her face shifted. Recognition. She stepped back, pulled out her phone, and started typing. A moment later, my phone buzzed. Emily, why doesn't my key work? I didn't reply right away. I let her stand there, staring at the door of the house she no longer had access to. The home she'd turned into a stage for lies. Then I sent the message. Me, your things are packed. Pick them up by Sunday. After that, I'm changing the locks again. I saw her read it. She didn't knock. Didn't call. She just stood there for another minute, thumb still hovering over her phone like she might say something. Might apologize or argue or beg. She didn't. She turned and walked back to her car. Drove off. And that was that. I sat down on the couch, exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks, and stared at the blank TV screen in front of me. It was done. Not over. Not yet. But done enough. She knew now. Knew the game was over. Knew I wasn't going to play the fool any longer. I wasn't going to be the guy who just absorbed the damage and called it compromise. That version of me. The one who made excuses for her coldness, her distance, her lies, he was gone. Buried with the key she could no longer use. She texted again later that night. Emily, I didn't expect this from you. I stared at the words for a while, then turned off my phone. Of course she didn't. She expected weakness, compliance, maybe even desperation. But not this. Not a locked door. Not silence. Not the version of me who no longer asked for answers. Who didn't need them. Because when someone shows you who they are, and then kisses someone else anyway, you don't ask why. You just start changing the locks. She came back the next morning, knocked gently. No yelling. No tears. Just asked, flatly, if she could stay in the guest room. Just for 2 weeks. I said yes. Not because I wanted her there, but because I needed to see what remained when everything else was stripped away. We lived like strangers. She cooked for one. I didn't ask where she went during the day. We barely crossed paths, but when we did, it was quiet, heavy. Her confidence was gone. She didn't look at me like she used to. Not with love, not with defiance. Just confusion. Maybe fear. I think she started to realize that I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. And that scared her more than anything. The night before she left, she made dinner. Real dinner. Candles. Wine. Music from a playlist we used to cook to. I sat. Ate. I let her talk. She said she made a mistake. Said she wanted to feel alive again. That she thought I'd fight for her. But I was done fighting. She wasn't the prize at the end of a battle. I just hadn't realized that until now. In the morning, she was gone. Left a note on the table. You were better than I deserved. I didn't cry. I didn't keep it. I threw it away, changed the locks, and let the silence stay. Finally felt honest.